So, you see most of the burning is in the IGP plains. And what is the impact is like, the regional haze that you can see. Is there a pointer? So these are the regional haze that has been masked in the region, and that impact is not only where the crop is burning, but it goes all along the uh, other countries, continents, and also to the Himalayas. And I think the Pakistan has already mentioned how it is contributing to the melting of the glaciers, and it has a lot of impact besides that. Uh, Bertrand mentioned about the dashboard that ECMOD has developed. And during that crop burning season, we also do monitor what is the, PM 2.5, AOD levels, both from satellite and also from the ground measurement. And we could find that, once that crop burning season has started, the AOD means aerosol optical depth. So this is the, masking the sunlight. So it is measured on that level. And when optical depth is around zero point 0.3, it's usually the cleaner atmosphere. And when it goes above zero point 0.7, you feel that the atmosphere is polluted. And above 1 is seriously polluted. But you can see it's going above 1.5 as well. So during that time, it's really, really polluted. The whole atmosphere is. And it's around like, it's not 1 ton, 2 ton. It's more than 115 million ton of crop residues is burnt in this IGP plains. And this is one of the image, like, Bertrand showed about black carbon. So I tried to show about methane. This is also a growing concern about methane emission, which we haven't done in our region a lot. So we tend to work on the methane emission. One is because this is also GHG gas, and it has a global warming potential. So this is really a hot issue that we should address it. And this is from the Edgar, and not working. Okay. So I think it will be better to process from there. No, next slide. Yeah, this slide. So when you see the methane emissions country-wise, I try to get, month-wise, but Edgar hasn't processed on the month-wise manner. So if you see it, you see that India has the largest share of the emission, followed by Pakistan, then Bangladesh and Nepal. And if you see the quantity of, crop production, India has the largest rice and wheat production, followed by Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Nepal. And uh, and to address this, now what we have done is previously we had done one work with US Embassy in Nepal. It was called Two Punjab, One Atmosphere. Two Punjab means Punjab of Pakistan and Punjab of India. And we have only one atmosphere. So we had done one work with US Embassy on that front and try to look at the issues. One is on the bricklins, the other is like, the common issues that where the pollution is coming, the other is majorly on the crop burning. So with that, we had done a small study, but due to COVID that we couldn't do much. Then again, we did a follow-up. This is supported by US Embassy based on that previous work. So this is what we are doing with Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, and Nepal. We tend to, in this project, we have three components. One is to develop a regionally fit framework for the use of pelletization of crop residue. What we do is we try to gather information on Nepal, India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, and try to see what are the challenges in these countries, what is the ex situ management. We heard a lot about in situ management of the crop residue here, and what is the market mechanism that we can work into it, what are the challenges on this market mechanism, and how do we really create a functional you know m- uh, mechanism to from the farm to the industry, the transportation linkages. How can we do this? So we will be working on that, and we will be also doing two pilots. One will be doing in Nepal, and one we are thinking, I mean, either in Pakistan, or we can do it in Bangladesh or India. We at the moment are not thinking in India, because India has lot of these pelletizing units. So maybe in Pakistan and Bangladesh, and maybe Pakistan could be a better option, that we can work together with ADB also in this front. So let's see. The second is like, how do we work on the policy, and what are the practices that we could foster in having this mechanism. And the third is on the outreach and knowledge dissemination for upscaling it, because this is really, really important to see. And Noriko has emphasized, like, once you see it, then you believe it. So it's also showing those good practices that are practiced around our IGPs, so that others can also work on it. And most importantly, I think ADB and also EC mode also focuses on mainstreaming the gender issues, how, and especially on the crop burning. This is a very, very important issue. And in 2020 also, we had done a small study how these women are impacted, because it's not only the impact from the burning, it's also the drudgery issues that women are facing, because more and more men are migrating. So these are the things that we will be looking into, and also including the women cooperatives groups in working. How do you making a functional market mechanism towards that? So I'm just showing some of the I'm not sure how these pellets can be made from different type of crop residue. So it's not only from the rice. The rice is the most toughest to make the pellets, but now there is a technology that has come up where we can make pellets out of just rice without combining with anything. Next slide. Okay. So this is one of the consultation meeting we had in Dhaka, and there we met with Takashi, and Takashi introduced us to this ADB program, and that's why we are here to present on this issue. And we have been, this is the consultation we are having, we'll be having in all these 4 countries, and very soon in July, we'll be having a regional inception meeting in Kathmandu, where we'll be having participants from all these 4 countries to discuss on the issue on this, open burning and crop residue management. So we will forward on this meeting. This will especially help us to develop this regionally fit framework that we will be working on, that document, and that will be also applicable for the people who wants to have this pelletizing unit. So what are the benefits, how can we do it? So all these things, where the machine, where can you find the machine? So those are the things that we will be including in this document. I talked about the policy, so I'm showing one research that we have done in at ECMOT, and other is from the Indian Agriculture Research Institute. Why policies are important? In Punjab, I mean, you must be knowing, in India, they have come up with a lot of good policies on open burning, because it's a very huge issues in India. And somebody mentioned that it's, during that time, Delhi is almost, you cannot see anything in Delhi. So there's a huge haze problem. So in Punjab and Haryana, this was implemented. And you can see from the year 23 to 22, there was a 37% dip in reduction once these policies was implemented. But in Uttar Pradesh, that policy was still not implemented. So there was a rise of, 1,000 cases of open burning of crop residue. And if you see Nepal, Nepal also doesn't have any policies. And we had done a study. There's a trend of increase of emission through crop burning by 27%. So, um, and what are the policies that has been implemented in, Punjab and Haryana is like, 20%, the bricklins, they use coal. And if you say that, around this IGP, there's more than 50 million tons of coal is used. And, if you say that, which are the industries that are using coal, it's cement, bricks, and iron and steel. These are the top three industries that use coal. So countries have already pledged for net zero emission. So what is the alternative source? So we are looking also at the alternative source where we can use this biomass in a controlled way. Biomass burning also is happening, but how we can use in a controlled way so that there is less emission. So this is how India is also working towards it. And most of the countries are also working how to reduce this, minimize this coal utilization and increase the renewable energy. Renewable energy means one is biomass, one is solar, and there are a lot of other forms of renewable energy that we can use, even hydro. So uh, that's why policies are really important, and we need to work with the government, local government. And even in India, that somebody was showing that in Rajasthan they are using for power plants. But now, so much of use of biomass is happening. There's a huge demand of biomass on both in briquettes and pellets, and also in the boilers. They are using lot of biomass in India, and I hope that it will happen in other countries as well. Next slide. This is a little pelletizing unit. Can you play it? Yes. Uh, yeah, yeah. This is a pelletizing unit, and that we visited in Moga district of Punjab. Can we go to the next slide? That what we did. So we did a little bit of energy audit of the bricklins that is using. Next slide. Next. Oh God. Okay, I'll just talk. Like we did an energy audit in the bricklins using mixed fuel, that is coal and 50% of coal and 50% of pellet. One is just using coal and one is just using pellets. So next slide. What we found out was the clean efficiency was best in 50% of coal and 50% of pellet. And still they can use in fired bricks also 100% of pellets, and even specific energy consumption was best in um, using this coal and pellet. So this was the small study that we did in energy audit in Punjab using in 3 kilns. The next study that what we have done is using pellets in the brick kilns. 18% of we mixed used pellets, and what we found out is, next slide, we did, this is the emission measurement, that we found out 12% of CO2 reduction while using this pellet. And surprisingly, I don't know, we need to still, I mean, we were also surprised that even PM 2.5 was lesser than when we use 18% of pellet. So these were the one study that we have done, but uh, in in my view that pellets usually don't reduce PM 2.5, but we need to really, but this study shows that PM 2.5 is reduced. CO2 is we think that it is reduced by 18%. And these are the two studies we have done, and this is the last slide. And some of the applications in the boilers, in the bricklins, and also in the institutional cooking. So these are this is happening. One in Nepal, this is in India, and that is also in India. So these are the applications that we can have. So, it's like killing one or two birds with one stone. One is like, you are reducing the amount of coal that is we are using. The other is we are also trying to solve the problem of open burning. Thank you. And also somebody mentioned about, some incentive to the farmers from the waste. Thank you.
Thank you. Very interesting. We also we have seen the similar this pellet, kind of producing machine in Pakistan also. So perhaps we can learn from you a lot for Pakistan also. Thank you very much. Thank you. So any question from the online part? Okay. So Kalma, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Bida. Very interesting and informative presentation. So I was just curious to learn if ISIMOD is also, like you showed, this is the bricken industry. If there is any project or whether you've also been exploring the textile industry. Because like I was showing in my presentation earlier, it's very similar, the issue with the coal, and then using the biomass and some are using pellets. But if you're also considering working on cleaning the energy in the textile industry and particularly in the South Asia, the IGP countries.
I guess, it can be used in furnaces, it can be used in boilers. But the only thing is like, if you use 1 kg of coal, you need 2 kg of pellet. The quantity has to be doubled, to match with the caloric value. Pellets, I mean, the caloric value of coal is very high. And if we make it pellet, the net caloric value of, then the loose biomass, it gets high. So we can get up to 4,000 kilocalorie of the pellet. So, I mean, still we cannot match the coal. The good grade coals are 7,000 to 6,000. So we need to use double the quantity. But it's not that impossible. It is possible. We are using it in boilers. Um, uh, One person in Moga, Punjab is, we are also not looking at big pelletizing unit. What that person is doing is he's producing pellets in his own farm, and he's using in 3 of the bricklins with his all pellets. He's not using any amount of coal, and his bricks are excellent. So it can be done. And we are also looking forward that, you don't need, a lot of transportation charges. Again, we think like these trucks carrying these big piles of bales would add to, again, CO2 emission. The diesel trucks will carry. So we are not thinking of that big units as well, but we are thinking of the units that can be, um, uh, established or in the area where the biomass residue is abundantly available.
Thank you so much. I think no. Yes, Babu Singh.
Thank you very much for very interesting presentations. My question to both of you is, preparing the bales of wheat or some other crops is much easy because the moisture content is low, is less than 10% at the time of harvest, and you can store it easy. But in case of rice, the moisture content is around 25 to 30% when you harvest. Then preparing the bales and storing it, it can deteriorate the quality of the straw. and it is not usable as a fodder for the animals. Definitely, that we know from the field. But do you face a kind of similar problem in while storing these bales for the pellets making? And if there is a problem, how it affects the quality of the pellets, or how difficult it is, or how we can overcome that problem of storing the rice straw?
I also mentioned in my presentation, like, the use of pel- m- to make pellets from the rice is really difficult. So, and now, there's a technology. I have some photographs that in India they have developed. They have partnered with this agriculture institute and the mechanization division, and they have one design one a whole unit on pelletizing, where they also take out this moisture content first and then again use the steam to make it more condensed. So there is already a technology available in in the neighboring countries, and these are the things what easy mode is trying to do. Sometimes it's difficult for other countries to go to India and see the technology, but we are bringing experts where you can discuss on the technologies. And Pakistan is also equally competent in developing these instruments. So once they know what is the idea, they can also develop in their own countries. So this is what we are trying to do in this regional.
It's excellent point.
Yeah.
Excellent point. Yes. So we will learn from you and Ishimo.
Yeah.
I think you have a office in Pakistan also. I think I saw Ishimo's office.
Yeah,
In
we used to
NARC.
have it, but I think we have closed it.
No? Close
Yeah,
down?
we
Okay.
have
So
closed
then
it.
we will discuss again.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can
Thank
discuss.
you very much. Thank you. Yeah. This is what we are trying to do it.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I think it's a very interesting sessions we had this morning. And afternoon, we are a bit running late, but no, because of, some people they have some kind of time commitment. So we now go to lunch, but then we will start exactly 1:30. So please come back at 1:30. We will start 1:30, and then we will continue the afternoon 2, 3 sessions. Yes. So thank you very much. And then the lunch is next room. Okay. So you go. Oh, no starts too for lunch. And then the please 1:30. Everybody come back here. So then the participants in online, please come back at 1:30. We will start at afternoon session. It's again very interesting session in afternoon. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mo yung recording. Pause mo lang yung recording.
Problem.
And her presentation? Oh, okay. Pinal, will you present by yourself?
Yes.
Okay. Understand. Just a minute. Who else has to come? They should bring the copy here. Okay, Pinal, thank you very much. Let's start. So now the first presentation in the afternoon, we would like to invite yes. So this session's title is Potential Use of Carbon Markets. And we have two experts who make a presentation. The first one, the carbon markets for agriculture and the natural resources sector, opportunities and the challenges. So we'd like to invite Zainab Pinal, Oztürk, carbon market specialist. Pinal, so should I call it Zainab? So thank you very much. And then you please start your presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm going to talk about carbon markets for agriculture and natural resources sector, and I will explore opportunities and challenges for particularly for agriculture sector. My presentation has 3 parts. First, I'm going to go through the principles of emission trading, then touch upon opportunities and challenges, and we'll give information about project certification pathway in voluntary carbon markets. First, I will talk about emission trading as a public policy. This is called cap and trade systems. Maybe you heard about it. The principle is capping the greenhouse gas emissions, which means putting an upper value for permissible emissions over a certain period of time. In this system, sectors and geographical regions should be identified. Let's say country A will implement emission trading system in its boundaries. This is the geographical boundary that is defined for cap and trade system. And the sectors included could be, let's say, heavy industry sectors, iron and steel, energy sectors, emitting high greenhouse gas emissions could be included in this cap and trade program. The instruments to meet the cap is first allowances and or permits that is distributed those sectors included in the cap and trade program. And these permits and allowances could be traded between the participants. For instance, if one company has lower emissions, it can transfer their carbon rights to another company with higher emissions to account for their emissions, to use for their on behalf of their emissions. By this way, the carbon price is predicted by the market conditions. And the market conditions could change a lot. So the designers of the emission cap and trade program also introduce offsets, project-based emission reductions, project-based climate change mitigation activities out of the sectors that are included in the cap and trade program, or out of the geographies that are identified for the cap and trade program. So let's say an iron and steel company has to join as a public policy to a cap and trade program, and the amount of emissions it has generated exceeds the amount of allowances it has. This company can either buy allowances from another company or offsets from projects out of iron and steel or other sectors included in the cap and trade program. We can say they can buy credits, offsets from agriculture, from forestry, which is not included in the cap and trade program. When we look at the world and regional pledges for greenhouse gas emission reductions, Paris Agreement, which came into force in 2015, is an international pledge to reduce the emissions for countries. Regional pledges, we see European Union emission trading scheme, which is operational since 2005. And national policies are being forced recently are China, Mexico, New Zealand, and Australia. Offsetting under Paris Agreement comes in 2 ways. The first is bilateral agreements. 2 countries agree to transfer the carbon rights between each other under Article 6.2. And there is also international trading available under Article 6.4. This is not active at the moment. The international trading part of the offsetting is not active in the moment, but we are at the phase of transferring and developing this structure. Emission trading as a company policy, as governments announce pledges to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, private sector followed these pledges. So they started to first report their carbon emissions and by some carbon accounting standards. GHG protocol is the most common one. And the approach when carbon accounting for private companies are Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, which means Scope 1 emission is the direct emissions generated by the company. Scope 2 emissions are the emissions related with the purchased goods and services like electricity. Some companies go further and they also reported Scope 3 emissions, which includes their supply chain. So companies, they have started to disclose their carbon emissions and give pledges to net zero, even negative carbon negative targets they have predicted. And some voluntary pledges has been formed to gather companies under a common goal. For instance, Carbon Disclosure Project or science-based targets, or international aviation companies, they have formed another scheme, another voluntary pledge initiative under CORSIA. The offsetting comes through voluntary carbon markets for private companies. We see three standards very popular in voluntary carbon markets, but recently there are more than 50 new standards developed under voluntary carbon markets. Verra has 53% of the share of issued credits, or the credits available in the market are labeled by Verra registry. Gold Standard is also a popular registry, voluntary carbon market registry, and has 27% share in the market. American Carbon Registry serves 14% of the carbon credits or offsetting credits in the market. When we go deeper in the voluntary carbon market, we see that the issuance by project type in 2023, three types of projects come forward: nature-based solutions, energy projects, and household devices has generated the most credits in the voluntary carbon market in 2023. This is the supply of credits. When we look at the demands, we also see nature-based solution and energy projects are most traded project types in 2023. And household devices and industry comes as the third, has the third biggest share. If you look at the trade volume, we see that in 2003, the trade volume has come from $300 million up to $700 million. It is more than doubled in 2022. This is because of the meeting, COP meeting in 2021. In that meeting, countries committed to reduce their emissions and become net zero by 2050. And this has driven the demand for carbon credits and offsetting credits. If you check the nature-based solutions volume, it has increased from 90 million to 300 million in 2022, which is more than tripled. The 2023 data stops in Q3. We don't have the data for Q4, but when we see the retired credits in 2023, the same amount of credits has been retired as the previous year. So we can expect the same amount of trade volume for 2023. I think in the Q4, the nature-based solution credits will enter in this chart, and the volume will also hit more than $300 million. But this is still a small portion of carbon trade, because when you take a look at emission trading schemes or cap and trade programs in countries, its volume has approached to $100 billion. So it's a very small portion of the carbon trade still, voluntary carbon markets in terms of volume. Opportunities and challenges for agricultural sector. Let's have a look at the profile of Asia continent as contributing to greenhouse gas emissions. In agricultural sector, first source of emission is non-CO2 emission, non-carbon dioxide emissions from crop and livestock activities within the farm gate. When we look at the share of livestock activities, enteric fermentation comes first, and with manure-related emissions, it is over the half of the contribution of greenhouse gases from agriculture sector. Rice cultivation comes as a second source of non-CO2 emissions as a crop cultivation resources. Another source is carbon losses from land use, mainly due to deforestation and peatland degradation. World total emissions from agricultural sector is 6.86 gigatons, and almost half of this portion comes from Asia. When we take a look at the voluntary market projects from agricultural sector, we see that the credits issued so far is a very small portion of the total market share. It is only 1.5%, and 30 million credits has been issued. Half of the credits has been sold, and half of the credits has remained up to date. This is still a very small portion of the remaining credits, 1.7%. And there are 961 projects that is proposed or developed under the agricultural sector. When we take a look at the project types, manure methane digester has the highest share in total projects. 448 projects has been developed under this scope, and 24 million credits, almost all of the credits issued from that project type. Rice emission reductions comes as second project type that generated credits under agriculture sector. In total, 4.5 million credits generated in under rice emission reduction projects. But still, half of the credits remains unsold, or half of the credits remains still available in the market. Sustainable agricultural projects, they are being developed recently, and they have a very small share in the total carbon credits issued in under agriculture sector. When we look at the countries who are most active in carbon market, voluntary carbon market, China comes first with 458 projects. United States is the second contributor. India and Turkey are the third and fourth contributors. From my experience, I can say that all of the projects listed here, 63 projects from Turkey, are all of them are manure methane digester projects. So there is still potential to develop projects in other scopes, other project types under the agriculture sector. For agriculture sector, when we talk about opportunities, we can say that the ambition in climate targets and increase of the number of emission trading systems will create demand on carbon credits. And this could be seen as an opportunity to develop carbon projects and issue credits under agriculture. New certification systems are also being introduced in the market. And a new system could be developed just for agriculture and land use projects. We can see, and this could be an opportunity to gather all projects under this scope and serve the buyers. New voluntary initiatives could be developed by big agricultural companies to support agricultural projects. There has been a new coalition called Symbiosis, which is supported by big corporations, and they have created a budget to support land use projects and agricultural projects that would sequester carbon dioxide, carbon in their bodies. So these projects will be supported, and we will see new voluntary initiatives are formed to support land use and agriculture projects in future. So the demand is getting bigger. In summary, is an advantage for agricultural projects. And what are the disadvantages? While the new certification systems and emission trading systems are developed and the demand is getting bigger, the certification requirements are also tightening. This could be a challenge for agriculture projects because agriculture projects are complex to develop, and monitoring and verification is also costly and complex due to the nature of the projects. For instance, to monitor the soil sequestered in soil organic carbon sequestered in agriculture projects, it depends, the amount of carbon included in the soil depends on various factors like temperature, agriculture methods implemented, or rainfall received. So this complex structure of the measurement is a challenge for agriculture projects. Reliability is also another challenge for this project type because the methodologies available are very limited and there are very controversial. It's for instance, the rice methane reduction methodology has been on hold under Vera project registry because the estimation method or calculation method is so general and it is not reflecting the real case on the field. The uncertainty level of this methodology is high. So the voluntary carbon standards choose to develop their own methodologies because of those uncertainties. So new methodologies or new approaches should be developed for agriculture projects and for land use projects as well. Remote sensing data cannot be used to, for instance, to estimate or calculate carbon emission reductions for those projects. Including these methods, these approaches in emission reduction calculation requires a lot of research and costs a lot of money. So reliability is also a disadvantage for those projects. Cost of certification and time required. This is also a disadvantage because agriculture and land use projects are dispersed through a large area, and generally it takes longer to include those areas in the projects, and monitoring and verification is also costly and complex. Double counting issues could be also a problem for agriculture projects, which means when the agriculture project would like to develop carbon credits and sell them on their behalf, the government may also account those emission reductions on their behalf, on their national targets. Volatility in prices is a general risk or general disadvantage for all projects under voluntary carbon markets. So in the last part of my presentation, I will go through the basic principles of a voluntary carbon project should have. First principle is additionality, which means the project should be additional in terms of environmental contribution, and should generate emission reductions, should result in emission reductions, as well as it should be additional in terms of legal requirements. So it shouldn't be, the project shouldn't be, it shouldn't be a must under the legal requirements of the country. And the financial additionalities could be also a part of the project development. So the project should not be financially attractive without the carbon credits. The second principle is measurability. So when you're developing the project for voluntary carbon markets, it should be the emission reductions should be measurable and should be quantifiable by approved methodologies under this mechanism. Permanence means the carbon emission reductions should be permanent. So this is particularly important for forestry projects, because the risk of deforestation and fire remains for these project type. And the project developers should take necessary precautions to avoid from these risks. Leakage prevention means when you're developing your project, when you're aiming to reduce emissions, in other places, you may cause increase of emissions. This is also applicable to forestry projects. When you're applying a forestation project in one part of the world, you may cause, because of the timber demand will remain the same, you may cause deforestation in other parts of the world. So this is also important as a principle for carbon projects. Credibility is provided by third-party verification and validation. So this is required by most of the certification, most of the voluntary carbon registries. So all projects should go through a third-party verification. Sustainable development benefits, apart from the climate benefits, projects may be required to provide additional sustainable benefits per some voluntary standards. Most of the voluntary carbon standards now requiring this, but gold standard and Plan Vivo, if you're applying to those standards, you need to provide contributions to other sustainable development benefits, which means supporting communities or developing additional activities which will boost the biodiversity. The last principle is the transparency, which means all the project documents and all the project information should be public and available to all stakeholders to review and provide feedback. My last slide is about the project cycle. So, and project cycle, to develop a project on the voluntary carbon market looks like this. First phase is planning the project activity, which means determining the baseline scenario and identifying how the project will contribute emission reductions. And if there is a...
Excuse me, Mina,
Sorry.
sorry. So now, yeah, can you please just to quickly squeeze your last slide? Thank you.
Yeah,
It's tight.
this is my
Yeah.
last slide. This
Yes,
is my
yes,
last slide. I will just go through the project cycle. And once you plan the project activity, you design the project, you decide the location of the project, you engage the stakeholders, and then prepare the project documentation and go to the validation by a third party. The project is then registered by an eligible registry, and you need to also continuously monitor the project performance. And this is also checked by a third party through verification. And then you have the carbon credits certified under the registry. And your credits are ready to distribute at issuance. Thank you. Sorry for the long presentation. If you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. I think this is how the carbon credit project in a private driven will be prepared. So now, using this knowledge, I would like to invite our colleague, Hiz Jamali, to talk about some possible, like actual and possible approach carbon market project on this natural resources and agriculture sector. So Hits, please start. So 15 minutes, sorry, because the next one, next presenter, he had a very tight schedule. So request you to finish for 15 minutes.
Hello, everyone. So the word that kept coming back, I think, throughout these sessions, was the incentive or the lack thereof. And because farming is essentially a business, and farmers operate in a tough world out there that's increasingly becoming harder for them because of climate change as well. We've seen during recent wheat harvest in Pakistan that there were unexpected rains. Farmers were scrambling for the time to harvest their crops. So without an incentive, it's very hard for them to just to manage their residues the way we want them, to reduce their environmental and climate footprint. So and carbon markets are a means, are one way to incentivize this. So, okay. And like Pinar mentioned, there are a number of voluntary carbon markets, and there are a few of major ones listed here. Vera, Gold Standard being the major ones, but there is an increasing number of these markets. And when we are talking about, when we discuss developing a carbon market project, we need to select one of these standards, and then they have methodologies for different areas, for agriculture, energy, and so on. So we select one of those methodologies and use that to develop the project. And one of the, as far as agriculture is concerned, one of the most common methodologies is Vera's VM0042 that covers almost all aspects of agriculture. You can see there fertilizer management, water management, tillage, residue, planting, harvesting, grazing practices. And within those, the method that's relates to residue management is in the middle, that covers tillage, but also crop residue retention and avoidance of residue burning. Now, can we just stop burning and start getting credits for it? Because essentially we are reducing emissions when we stop burning. So let's see what the method says. So again, VERA VM0042 methodology. One of the first conditions it has is that the practice we are trying to promote should not be prohibited by law. Now, we know that in Punjab, in Pakistan, and most of India, it's illegal. Burning is illegal. That means, boom, we can't claim that carbon credits for it. So, but let's say we find a place where it's not illegal. The next condition is it should not be a common practice, and that is defined that the adoption rate for that activity should be less than 20%. Now, I think Amna presented some numbers. I think that showed that 72% of the farmers were burning. Yeah. And that means 28% are not burning the residue, which establishes this as a common practice. That means, again, for two very good reasons, we can't claim carbon credits for not burning the residue. So we need to find some other options. So what are the other options? So there are two ways to generate carbon credits broadly. One, we avoid emissions. For example, we stop burning. Yes, we are avoiding emissions. Second, we sequester carbon, for example, by planting trees. They absorb carbon, and that's carbon sequestration. So most of the carbon credits fit into one of these two options. So in an ideal world, I think we all want circular economy is the way to go. So if we can create a circular economy on the farm, that's ideal. So nothing goes out. And now so I think we've discussed in the morning a number of presenters. Why can't animals eat this thing? The reason is because it has poor digestibility. It resembles more with wood than fodder, because it has high lignin, high cellulose, high silica. So its protein content is like 3% or less, at least less than 5%. And any organic matter with less than 8% protein is not recommended for fodder. So of course the farmers mix it with other green fodder to make it more eatable. But it acts more as a filler rather than as a nutrient source. And you can almost tell by the face expression that buffalo is not really enjoying the meal. So it's really forcing them to eat it. And it's more out of necessity, out of compulsion, rather than an ideal choice. And if you look at all the developed countries, which also grow rice, the US, Australia, they don't use it over there because they can afford to have other fodder sources. Okay. So another option for circular economy on the farm is, why don't we incorporate it in the soil? So of course there are these limitations on mechanization. We don't have the right machines. We can't afford it. But let's say Noriko solves that problem for us. And should we then do it? I mean, yes, there are a lot of literature that shows it's improved the soil health, but there are other issues. Because of high silica and high lignin and cellulose, it's a slow decomposing straw. So if you keep putting it on, there is literature that tells us it can create soil diseases. So it's different from wheat residue, where you can put almost all of the straw. In rice case, you have to be careful. And most importantly, it can increase methane emissions because it's a carbon source, and when we flood it, that provides a carbon source. Methane is CH4, and when it's an anaerobic environment, it increases. So up to 2 times higher methane emissions can occur. So while on one hand we can argue we are improving soil carbon, but at the same time it's being offset by higher methane emissions. So we need to keep that in mind. And again, I think even when we talk about soil carbon, like Pinar alluded to that point, permanence is a requirement. So when we put any residue in the soil, it's we know how much carbon we are putting in because we know exactly what percentage of carbon is it in different forms of residue. But what we don't know is how long that is going to stay in the soil, because it will start decomposing, and the number of variables control that, and it's hard to estimate that without actually measuring it, which is very difficult. So again, we would like to do that, but it's very difficult. Now, we need to look at other options. What are the other options? So in rural areas, in many developing countries, we use those cook stoves. You can see open burning, very inefficient, but it's very common seen if you ever visit in those rural areas. Now, we can replace ideally, and there was a lot of talk about pellets and briquettes this morning. Perfect, and we can do that. But we are still burning it. So what's the difference burning it there or burning it there? The difference is that we are avoiding deforestation. We are reducing the normal source of wood for these is that wood comes from those trees which sequester carbon. But now we are replacing that with pellets, which otherwise would have been burned in the field. And this is how we earn carbon credits. So this is an example of how we can earn a carbon credit using straw. And but there are many other options. For example, the first one I already discussed, replacing energy with generating energy using rice straw. I think this has been discussed by many speakers this morning, and there are a number of options to do that. Whether I think one example, our colleague from India about grid-connected energy plant, but also I think Shahid Tarsa mentioned that the preferred way might be to do it in a localized way, where we have these smaller plants that generate and that provide energy to local industries at a smaller level. And then, but I think the purpose of this slide is not to give a comprehensive list of options, but to make the point that when we are developing a carbon market project, sometimes using just one option is financially not viable. It might not give you enough credits to make it financially viable. So you might have to add something else. So you can have, for example, you can, when we are developing a project, we can add some, maybe distribute 50,000 stoves, and that give you extra credits. Or we can, after rice, there is always wheat season. We also introduce reduced tillage that also gives you credits. So it can make it more cost efficient, the project. And also it reduces the risk. If for any reason, one of the methods doesn't work, we have something else to rely on. And my personal favorite is biochar. So normally, I think, so what is biochar? You can normally create this by using, by combusting any organic matter in a low oxygen environment. So it doesn't really burn, but it converts it into a highly stable carbon form that can stay in that form for centuries. So, and the good thing about this, the biochar, is that it will, one of the biggest hurdles or constraints is MRV, measurement or verification. Now, when we put the straw in the soil, we don't know how much carbon is going to stay there. With techniques like biochar, that's easy to do, because we know this. There is enough science to tell us that the biochar can remain as biochar for centuries. So as long as we know how much biochar we are putting in the soil, we know exactly how much carbon is going to credits we are going to get from it. So from MRV point of view, it makes our life easier, and of course, it's improves soil health. It improves nutrient retention because it optimizes the pH levels and the water holding capacity and a number of other benefits. And also, I think there is enough literature that shows that it also reduces greenhouse gas emissions, particularly nitrous oxide and methane. And there are now published studies which have compared if you add rice residue as raw compared with adding biochar, the same residue converted into biochar and adding that in the soil. Adding the residue of rice increases methane emissions, while adding the same residue converted into biochar reduces the methane emissions. So there is that benefit as well. So it's a very strong candidate for carbon markets. So it's not necessarily a way forward for the whole the broader players, but maybe for us. I think we need to understand what the opportunities are, and do some solid studies on what is the economic feasibility of those different ideas and the combination of different ideas. Something I think we've been talking with Sabah during lunchtime, so we need to really understand that. And also I think and Pinar and I were looking at a long list of projects. There is just so many projects that have been listed, and even we found one in Pakistan, the Lucky Cement, which is one of the big cement companies. They have registered a project about replacing some of their coal or fossil fuel-based energy with biomass. So we don't know what happened to that, but there are examples. I think there is. We know it's not easy developing a carbon project or implementing it, but what people have done before, I think we need to really learn from those experiences, and then based on that, I think we need to identify the right standards and carbon markets that suit us. But above all, I think any solution we talk about for sustainable residue management is underpinned by mechanization. Thank you.
Very good word, mechanization. So we are focusing on that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pinar and his. So there is one question from Shahid. Shahid Saab, are you here? Or if not, maybe
Yes,
you can
I
read.
put the questions up on the chat box.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Thank you.
Shahid Saab. To Pinar. Pinar, okay? Yes, Shahid
Yeah.
Saab, please.
So it was just really on the the difference between, she mentioned that there were some that were leftover credits and sort of half were unsold, and I just wanted to know about the is it to do with the quality of the credits or just the supply and demand? And I think it's actually more to do with there's a preference for energy-based credits and land use-based credits as opposed to rice, the ones derived from rice methane.
Yes, thank you for the question. I have also write you on the chat. The remaining credits are generally because of the demand side, demand preference. When you look at the total greenhouse gas emissions in the world, the highest share comes from energy sectors. So the first focus is greening the energy sector and promoting renewable energy. So the companies and project developers focus on these sectors. When you take a look at the supply side, you also see huge amount of share is in the market has been supplied by energy sector projects and nature-based solutions. The first reason is the fossil fuels should be eliminated from the energy sector. So this is the first focus of the project, first focus of the buyers. The second, the project type, which on the demand side is most preferred, is the nature-based solutions, because those projects come with additional benefits like biodiversity or supporting the communities, local communities in remote areas. So these projects also, they sequester carbon, so they are most preferred by the companies. So the remaining credits in agriculture sector or other sectors because of the demand side. But we are expecting this demand to be get bigger and bigger by time, because as you see in 2022, the volume of the credits has increased due to the net zero target in 2050. So the carbon credits will be required, and now all the buyers should focus in all available projects in all sectors, because we are approaching to the limit of global warming over 1.5 Celsius degrees. So we need to act quickly, and we need to act in a wide range of sectors, not focusing only energy and nature-based.
One
Thank you.
follow-up question, if I may, Noriko.
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you, Pina. In your and this is made for Dr. Hayes as well. You know, basic principles of the project. There's a aspect for sustainable development benefits. So would you say for agricultural based, or if we're talking about rice specific, there should be a greater weighting towards, you know, highlighting more sustainable development benefits as opposed to just direct, you know, emissions mitigation? Would that sort of rebalance the project, do you think?
Yes, I
Pinar?
think, yes, I agree with you. Additional benefits would also attract buyers and interest from the market in general.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other question? Okay, thank you. Any question? So you can directly talk to his and then send us question if you have any. Okay, thank you very much. So it's again bit difficult topic to me, but it should be maybe the future. So thank you very much, Binal and his very interesting presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you. So now we will move to the session 5. Here ADB has had some experience of policy support to the government. So we identified two very important and interesting policy program among the ADB's investment. So I would like to invite Leizan, Unit Head Project Administration, Energy Sector, Office Sector Group. He will share about his experience and his team's experience about BTH, Air Quality Improvement Program. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Zhang Lei. Thank you, Noriko, for the introduction. Yeah. This program was developed in 2014-15. At that time, actually, China, especially the northern part of China, is facing very serious air pollution issues. So, requested by the government, ADB and the government has jointly developed, we call this Greater Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei Air Quality Improvement Program. So my presentation mainly will cover 5 aspects: the reason, the background, and what need to be done to address these challenges, and how ADB has responded, and lessons and experience. And also we produced one 10-minute video. So at the end of my presentation, we will just show the video. The background is just I mentioned that the greater BTH, actually, if you see the map here, in the right, within the right line, that actually is the region, the greater BTH, including Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei, and the surrounding provinces. And the blue line, actually, that is Yangtze River Delta region, comprised of Shanghai, Jiangsu, Anhui, and Zhejiang provinces. Within the BTH this region, actually, this region has the highest CO2 emission in PRC, about 40% of CO2 emission from this region, and also the highest average annual PM 2.5 concentrations, which in year 2015, the concentration is 73 micrograms per cubic meters. In the early 2010s, the government developed this comprehensive action plan for air pollution prevention and control. This is targeting only BTH region. And later stage in 2017-16, government implemented another plan called 3-year action plan to combat blue sky war. This is a further expand the region from the greater BTH region to cover Yangtze River Delta. So the two regions together accounts for more than 50% of GDP in PRC and also almost 50% of the population. These two regions are the main air pollutants and also the CO2 emissions hotspots in the PRC. This is the background for this 10 years program. When we present this BTH program, normally we show this picture. This is the bird view of this forbidden city on left side. Actually, in year 2010, this is quite normal in Beijing. So it's the heavy air pollution is almost every day. So what need to be done to address these challenges? Actually, from three aspects covering policy, investment, and the technology should be targeted. What we have done, what ADB has been done. So based on that background, ADB and the government has jointly developed this cross-sectoral programmatic approach of this BTH program, targeting the policy, financing, and the technology gaps. And also, in addition to the reduced air pollutants, the co-benefits of CO2 GG emission reduction is another focal. So from ADB, always we highlight this validation from ADB. So innovation, leverages, synergy, and better results is a major concern consideration when this program is designed. This program actually cover two stages. The first stage, covering 2015 to 2017, is mainly to build a institutional foundation for this emission reduction through strengthening the policy and the regulatory framework and developing also the financing platforms. The second stage, starting from 2018, further is to deploy the high technologies and to targeting specific provinces and also targeting the new air pollutants such as ground level ozone and new this greenhouse gas emission in addition to CO2, the hydrofluorocarbon in a larger region. There are a total 8 loans under this program. The first loan is PBL, targeting Hebei province, which has most air pollution issue in China because there are many heavy industries, especially the steel factories. More than 50% of the capacity of steel manufacturing is located in that province. So that PBL mainly is to set up the policy actions inconsistent with the national policy to customize for the Hebei province. Then the second loan is a FI loan. Is also cover the whole greater BTH region. This is the China National Investment and Guarantee Corporation, in short is ING, is a financial institution. Then the third loan actually is to set up a fund to deploy high technology based on this financial institution, which is the China Environment and Environment Conservation and Energy Conservation Group, which is a leading group in China on this environment protection and energy efficiency improvement technology. So this the third loan actually is also through the FI loan to target heavily polluted industries covering the whole region. The fourth loan, then we go to from the whole region and focus on specific province. This is a project loan. Is in Shandong province, which is mainly coal-based industrial province, to provide the clean heating and cooling technology in the urban and the city, urban and rural areas. And the fifth loan is also in Shandong province through the setting up the green fund to provide equity and debt investment targeting the green development. The sixth loan then is we shift to another province, Henan province, which has the largest population in China. This is a result-based lending program to basically replace coal with natural gas and even biogas for clean for the clean heating, cooking in the semi-urban and rural area of the province. The seventh loan is FI loan, mainly to increase the capacity of local city and the city bank is called city commercial bank to enhance their GS this capacity to for the green development. The last loan, then we come back to the FI, which is the second loan, the FI. Again, because when we process the last loan, the second loan has already almost done. We know their capacity, we understand their capability, and based on that, established this platform, this financing platform. The second loan actually is to cover larger this geographic coverage to extend to the Yangtze River Delta and also expand the pollutants, air pollutants, to include this ground level ozone and also the new GG like HFC. So from this through the 8 loans, ADB actually from its own resources, ADB provided $2.45 billion, and also leveraged more than $5 billion so far. So here this mainly showed is a PM 2.5 concentration. In as I mentioned in 2015, in the region actually the greater BTH region, the concentration is around 73 microgram per cubic meters, and by 2022 this had been reduced to 44 microgram per cubic meters. So ADB's the a bit greater BTH program definitely has contributed a lot to this results, to these achievements. Key lessons actually for air pollution reduction and this GHG emission issues, which is a cross-sectoral issue. So a programmatic and integrated approach will to cover both policy, financing, and technology is needed. And the first priority, actually, the most important thing is strong government commitments and the EIA's ownership. Also, the flexible design to adapt to the government involving policies and the priorities also is necessary because of a long period. And inclusive financing targeting the various stakeholders and leveraging from the local financial institutions and the private sector is essential. Also, the innovative business models and the advanced technologies are important. Actually, for the last 3 license experiences, actually the FI loan can well adapt to address these these issues. They have those advantages. So that's the reason why among 8 loans, 5 loans are FI loans. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So policy approach. Yeah. So Lei has to leave soon. So any question now to him? Any question from the participants?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Sorry.
Video, yeah. It's okay. It's okay. Let me speak. Video actually. Video actually now is being reviewed by the doc. So after the doc's clearance, we will disclose on the website. But the current video is 10 minutes long. Will be trimmed down to 3.5 minutes. Then disclose on.
Air pollution, a consequence of rapid urban development, plagues the greater Beijing-Tianjin-Hebei BTH region in the north of the People's Republic of China, PRC. Since early 2010s, with PM 2.5 levels soaring, the greater BTH region was casting a thick and hazardous haze over cities, spotlighting urgent air quality crises. Recognizing the urgency, the government of the PRC issued the Air Pollution Prevention and Control Action Plan in 2013. Subsequent policies, like the 3-year action plan for winning the Blue Sky War, reinforced commitments to cleaner air, pushing for industry upgrades and cleaner energy. Despite substantial investment, achieving good air quality requires additional funding sources. In 2015, the government of the PRC and the Asian Development Bank, ADB, agreed on a multi-year lending program, which aimed at mutually reinforcing the government actions on air pollution reduction in the greater BTH region. An integrated approach was applied to address financing gaps, air pollution, coal-based industrial development, mitigate climate change, and improve the welfare of vulnerable groups. From 2015 to 2020, ADB provided loans up to $2.45 billion to 8 projects under the program to support the PRC in addressing air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. ADB's support focuses on policy reform, application of new technologies, innovative financing mechanism and business models, and focus on capacity building to address air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions issues. Through tailored loan modalities and financial products, the Greater BTH program promoted advanced technologies catering to the needs of different stakeholders, with a strong commitment to inclusivity and diversity. This program also leveraged co-financing from both international and domestic financial institutions, including the World Bank, KfW, China Development Bank, among others. The first loan under this program became effective in 2015. It was ADB's first policy-based loan approved in the PRC that focused on policy reforms and regulatory capacity strengthening in Hebei province. In 2014, Hebei province faced extremely severe air pollution. Except for Zhangjiakou, the annual average PM 2.5 concentration in all other cities exceeded PRC's national Class 2 standard. However, the Hebei provincial government had difficulties in mobilizing financing to implement the air pollution control policies. This policy-based loan helped the government effectively respond to the urgent policy reform and financial needs in Hebei. Throughout the process, coordination among ADB, KfW, and the World Bank provided financial assistance. KfW contributed $167 million in co-financing to the program. In addition, the World Bank concurrently provided $500 million to support Hebei through the policy-based lending approach. Shandong Green Development Fund project is another project that benefited from co-financing. By co-financing with KfW, AFD, and particularly a $100 million grant from the Green Climate Fund, this project demonstrated an innovative leveraging mechanism to catalyze private, institutional, and commercial capital for the development of climate-responsive infrastructure and business in Shandong province. ADB approved 5 financial intermediation loans within the program to bridge the funding gap for reducing air pollutants from energy, transportation, urban development, and agriculture. These projects were inclusively designed to target a wide range of sub-borrowers, including financial leasing companies, energy service companies, small and medium-sized enterprises, and startup companies. The successful implementation of China National Investment and Guarantee Corporation's Green Financing Platform project demonstrated that providing suitable financial products to local clients is essential. The project has been awarded as one of 30 best practices of nature-based solutions at the 2019 United Nations Climate Action Summit and won the Global Green Finance Innovation Award in 2020. This led to a scale-up project in 2020, Green Financing Scale-Up Project, aiming to elevate domestic climate bond standards to international levels. The project supported the issuance of the first domestic clean air bond, complying with both standards of the Climate Bonds Initiative and the Multilateral Development Bank safeguards requirements, attracting wide attention from financial institutions and green bond issuers.
亚航项目是中投保在发改委、财政部、国投集团的顶层设计和大力支持下，携手亚航在绿色投融资领域的开展的创新探索。亚航项目遵循国际 ESG 概念，感谢亚航对中投保 ESG 能力的建设的培养和支持。未来，中投保将继续致力于做好绿色金融大文章，为践行国家双碳战略、助力绿色可持续发展贡献力量。
China Energy Conservation and Environmental Protection Group is another agency that adopted financial intermediation loan modality. Given its technical advantages and industry-leading role in energy conservation and environmental protection, this project promoted the adoption of high-level technologies in high energy consumption and pollution sectors, such as comprehensive utilization of the waste heat and byproduct hydrogen to replace fossil fuel consumption in the chemical industry park, and integrated treatment of household waste and industrial waste to generate green electricity and produce recycled construction material. An environment and social management system was developed for financial intermediaries to screen, assess, and monitor sub-projects, effectively managing safeguard risks. A sequence of capacity-building events has been systematically carried out.
中节能亚航基金项目采用母子基金运作模式，引导资金支持节能减排先进技术，以5亿美元亚航贷款撬动至少15亿美元社会资本，依托中国节能产业资源优势，将行业领先的节能减排技术推广并应用于高污染、高耗能行业。
In Henan Province, the Cleaner Fuel Switch investment program marked a milestone by utilizing the results-based lending modality, the first of its kind for infrastructure projects in the PRC. This program supports government-owned programs through a performance-based form of financing. Disbursements of ADB loan are linked to the achievement of results instead of inputs made. This program is expected to support Henan Province to reduce the share of coal in primary energy consumption from 67.4% in the year 2019 to 58% by 2030. Moreover, by incorporating gender-responsive disbursement-linked indicators, ADB ensures that women are empowered and benefited directly from the program.
绿天新能源服务农村居民用户，为我们这些选择留在家乡的年轻人提供了很好的就业机会。
公司在招聘的时候，同等条件下优先聘用女性员工，我感觉自己在工作岗位上也能发光发热。
然后在农村是用的天然气，确实比液化气便宜，还干净，还省心。
The Shandong Clean Heating and Cooling Project integrated renewable energy technologies and waste heat recovery from industry and power plants, and strived to offer cleaner and more efficient heating solutions economically. Responding to the calls for global climate mitigation, the project aims to phase out coal-based heating in rural households around Jinan City, opting instead for clean alternatives like air source heat pumps, electric boilers, and geothermal systems. By leveraging government incentives, upfront costs for heating solutions are lowered, making them accessible to rural households. With the technical expertise of the heating companies, tailored solutions are identified, managed, and delivered to households. These efforts have significantly contributed to improving air quality and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, laying the foundation for a cleaner and more sustainable future. In 2022, the annual concentration of PM2.5 in the greater BTH region dropped by 39.7% from the 2015 baseline to 44 micrograms per cubic meter. Sulfur dioxide was reduced by 73.7% to 10 micrograms per cubic meter, and nitrogen oxide fell by 37.0% to 29 micrograms per cubic meter. The ratio of days with good air quality increased by 9.8% to 86.5%. The Green Financing Platform project, which was closed in 2022, has avoided over 5.16 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions in the year of 2024 compared with 2015. Now, the public in the greater BTH region is breathing cleaner air, leading to improved health outcomes and overall well-being.
Yeah, sorry, there's a technical issue. So the video actually has a BGM, so may enjoy it better. But anyway, we have submitted this to the doc. So doc will have to trim down to 3.5 minutes according to ADB's requirements. After that, we will disclose on the website. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next presentation, okay, here. I think this is the last presentation. Again, the ADB program approach for Mongolia. So I would like to invite Maria Pia Ancora, Senior Urban Development Specialist, Water and Urban Development Sector Office, So the Mongolia Ulaanbaatar Air Quality Improvement Project. Air Quality Improvement Program. So Maria, are you here online?
I am Noriko. Noriko-san. I
Thank
don't know.
you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon to you, colleagues and guests of the ADB. Thank you for inviting me to present our experience with a programmatic approach in Mongolia. I was responsible for designing the first policy-based loan, which was designed between 2017 and 2018 to solve the dire air pollution issues in the capital city of Mongolia, in Ulaanbaatar. The program largely builds on the experience that Janlei just presented. By the way, awesome video, Janlei, well done. In the sense that it adopts like an integrated long-term approach to sustaining efforts for reducing air quality in a region. Shall I share my screen, or will somebody help me move through the screen? Okay, thank you. So actually, similarly to the air pollution problem in the northern part of China, Ulaanbaatar was clearly has extreme temperatures, well below 10 degrees for winter months, and it suffers from temperature inversion, which is a phenomenon by which the pollution is trapped within layers of cold and hot air. This was aggravated. Actually, this haze was formed basically by primarily by lack of proper clean heating provisions in the GER areas, which are, let's say, informal settlements all around the urban center. Urban settlements which were continuously fed with people and an expanding population by climate change-driven migration from the countryside. Of course, this created air pollution levels, and especially measured in PM10 and PM2.5 levels, which were way above the recommended standards of the World Health Organization. This was an old standard, actually. I think it's been now reduced to 5 micrograms per cubic meter, and sometimes reaching well over 1,000 times that standard. Clearly, this was a huge health emergency for Mongolia. And it was estimated at the time that 10% of the mortality was attributed to air pollution only in the capital city. And annual costs were estimated in the order of 400 plus million per year, which it's something close to 15% of the Mongolia GDP, of Ulaanbaatar GDP, and about 10% of Mongolia's GDP. Clearly, a heavy cost for people in the economy. It was very clear that the main air pollution source for this phenomenon in winter was coal burning, and coal burning for heating and cooking in the GER areas. Only 20% of the PM10, PM2.5 sources was due to transport, power plants, and dust resuspension, due to the fact that the roads in the GER areas were not paved. Luckily, we could rely on good, let's say, due diligence or good analysis that had been performed in the past years by other donors. If I remember correctly, that was JICA in particular, had done a good source apportionment study. So there was already a momentum, let's say, in the government and in the country to try to solve this issue. And in 2017, Mongolia had issued its national action plan for air pollution control and instituted a national committee, like a sort of a high-level city committee, which was tasked to solve the problem of air pollution. However, there was both, let's say, lack of coordination, lack of empowerment of this national committee, and there was clearly need for guidance, if you want, on how to tackle the problem in a synergistic way, in a cross-sectoral way. There had been, yes, please move to the next slide. There had been attempts, let's say, by other donors and by the country itself, by the government itself, to solve, let's say, the problem in a piecemeal matter. For example, there had been, let's say, an initiative to change the clean, change the stoves, so that people would switch to, let's say, a cleaner technology, but it didn't really work. There were attempts to provide cleaner coal, but it only lasted for a very long time. So the whole situation was quite dire. Clearly, there was an incomplete environmental regulation framework. I've already mentioned the lack of coordination and communication among ministries. In general, there was no, let's say, comprehensive or long-term view on urban development itself. So this is where we coordinated with about 12 entities, 12 ministries, each of whom had a specific role in contributing to the efforts to solve the issue. And these agencies were coordinated by the Ministry of Finance, and I'm glad we have two here today who at the time was my counterpart in the Ministry of Finance and was really like pulling the strings and was really effective in making sure that ministries, that we would have a meaningful dialogue with each of these ministries. Of course, Ministry of Energy in particular, but Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Health, etc. So if we can move to the next slide. What we devised was, let's say, an interlinked strategic set of policy actions that were meant to try to solve the problem in the short term, improve the enabling regulatory framework, which could then ensure sustainability of the project in the long term, and let's say plant the seeds for more transformative, let's say, measures, which in the long term would favor a shift away from the polluting and erratic development which was happening, and again would ensure sustainability of the measures. I think it was clear from John Lay's presentation, and I don't think I need to explain that a policy-based loan is basically a type of lending modality in which the country benefits from budget support in exchange for committing to certain policy reforms. Usually, you're not supposed to link the budget support to, let's say, to tag specific measures, but in fact, we sort of had to, and we sort of agreed with the government that some of the measures were extremely urgent and were extremely effective, and therefore we were able to tag certain amount of the policy based support to key priority actions, such as the provision of improved fuels, means the provision of cleaner coal, cleaner briquettes for people to avail of that cleaner fuel for heating. We tagged some of the finance to expanding the district heating so that the boilers, the very old boilers, could be retired. And we were able to tag some of the money, some of the budget support for vaccinating kids, about 40,000 kids between 0 and 5 years of age, to be vaccinated against pneumonia, which was clear from earlier study that was an aggravating factor, which combined with the air pollution was really like a silent killer in Ulaanbaatar. These were some of the priority actions, and then the policy actions which were approved under the second PBL, which was not processed by me. I had already left East Asia by the time this was approved. The phase 2, as we call it, the second PBL, basically chose policy actions which were meant to sustain whatever was done under phase 1, and keep that momentum and keep building the capacity of the government and the government line agencies. They expanded the community engagement program. They instituted a new immunization policy for including pregnant women and newborns. And as I said, allocated more funding to the National Committee for it to be fully functional. And again, with a view of on the long-term interventions, they require the endorsement of an EDGE standard for Mongolia for cleaner heating in public buildings. So all in all, can we go to the next slide? So yes, this is the list of agencies, as I was saying, including the municipality that were involved. So very complex implementation arrangements, which were, however, necessary to be included in this program. So all in all, it was close to 300 million of ADB finance. The first one was approved, the first PBL was approved in 2018 and completed in 2019, when the second one was approved to be completed in 2020. We're very proud to say that this was extremely effective, as the pollution measured in terms of PM 2.5 average was reduced by, I think, 46% compared to the previous 5 years average. And I think I remember we had a target in the DMF for 30%, so we overachieved our targets. The program was rated quite well by the evaluation department, who rated it relevant, effective and successful overall. So the key lessons for, let's say, from the programmatic approach that we adopted was really that you need comprehensive policy framework and coordination. It can be taxing and it can be difficult, but it's only through combined efforts across all these sectors, energy, health, and in particular, that the policies were synchronized to be effective and mutually reinforced. It's important to blend in emergency cases like that. It was important to blend short-term and long-term actions. So basically, trying to reduce as quickly as possible the pollution levels while setting the foundations for sustained improvement. And as any development project that I've worked on in the last 25 years, you do need strong political commitment. And you do need to invest in institutional strengthening. And this is, I think the kudos really go to the government of Mongolia with their role and their establishment of the National Committee that oversaw the implementation of the air quality initiatives. And I do hope that they're keeping up the momentum. Tuya will tell us more about that. But in general, I think what we provided for was also very extensive communication and awareness campaign, which is important to solicit cooperation from the communities for successful implementation of the measures. Without people understanding what they're into and why they should change behavior, I think any policy would fail, and I would trust these apply to the agriculture sector as well. I think that was all from me. Yes. Maybe just next slide. If you, no, not this one. Okay. Just to mention that, in fact, these two PBLs were part of a larger set of financing for Mongolia, which in those years was really also contributing to improved urbanization and therefore improved air quality as a result. But again, I think Tuya can explain more about what happened in those years and what is still happening, perhaps. Over. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Maria Pia. It's very interesting and a lot of efforts I can see in the team. So thank you very much. Any question from the participant side? No? Okay. So then here, a floor participant. So then perhaps, we will have the last session, but will be very interesting. So we would like to go to the final open discussion and wrap-up session. I would like to invite the moderator to moderate this interesting session. Saba Abdullah, Senior Economist Climate Change, the Economic Analysis and Operation Support Division, Economic Research and Development Impact Department, ADB. Also, we have an important guest today. So, Ms. Tsuya, can I call it because it's a bit long, Tsuya? So, Director's Advisor, ADB. So, I have heard that you are actually part of this project preparation. So thank you. And then I will pass this microphone to you. Please.
Thank you so much. I'll be very quick just because I will have to introduce our guest speaker. But I want to acknowledge also my colleague who's not here, Takashi Yamano. He worked on that RSET from Pakistan. So I would like to wrap up this session with a few words that I've heard, observed, and I had the privilege of sitting with some of our colleagues. So we've heard from the beginning at 9:30, from the introduction we had from Jingpei and then Yoko, everybody else, that there's a problem. And the problem is the mortality rates we're seeing, the GDP reduction in terms of economic level of countries, and productivity, even for farmers. So I'll tell you some clusters of what I've heard, and it's up to you because you may hear different things, and it's okay. If you don't mind me walking, yeah. So the first cluster of themes that I've heard is about stakeholders. It's so important to identify the key stakeholder. We've seen or we've heard farmers and mechanization and machinery and access was very important. We've heard from Shahid about the private sector, the role of the private sector, and the innovative ways of thinking ahead about renewable energy in that aspect. We've heard how government plays a role, and we'll hear shortly as well. The support of institution would be very important. Also, the role of MDBs, especially us, ADB. We've heard just now the PBLs, RBLs, and that programmatic approach having a wider impact. And then also, of course, we've heard from the UN as well, from Mario, which, I mean, you've all heard what they're doing in terms of best practices and bringing other MDBs into play. The most important that we should not forget in terms of innovation as well is the role of third-party verification. These are, as we've heard before from Pinar, that they are out there and they need to measure in terms of GHG reduction, carbon, and any other sort of benefits that could be measured in terms of voluntary and market-based solutions. So the second theme that I heard is having the right technology. And what we've heard is the right mechanization in the case of Pakistan. If you have the right machinery, then you see a reduction in terms of, and the benefits in terms of gain and efficiency. And we've seen in that case, the RCT was able to show adoption rates with and without awareness in place. So that was very good. Then also we've heard about incentives, best practices, and all that is so important in bringing and opening up the market opportunities that we are hoping, whether it's the private sector or even PPPs, public-private partnerships. Also, we've heard the role of the government in terms of, again, policies, action plans. Without them, this would not be possible as our partner in getting us to reduce any sort of pollution, especially in agriculture, energy, transport, and other sectors. Then finally, well, should I say finally? Not really. We've heard over and over again about opportunities and challenges. I cannot emphasize much more than what we've heard in terms of lessons learned. And we just heard in the case of Mongolia, how the political commitment and institution is important as a champion to get us there. As well, I would say the other lesson learned I learned, which I take it to my heart, is the private sector. Sumika mentioned how site selection. So it's not about anywhere. You've got to have in place a suitable site with logistics in place and extensive of local farmers. That was very important for our first biomass project in ADB. Hopefully, we can scale up more on that. Finally, without further ado, I will go ahead and introduce our next speaker. And I hope I was very brief in what I was saying. I'll pronounce your name. I'll take my time. Erden Tuya Darin Chulun. I will say Tuya is a development policy and project management professional with over 15 years experience. She's currently serves the director advisor at the board of directors of ADB, representing Mongolia, Pakistan, Philippines, Kazakhstan, Maldives, Marshall Islands, and Timor-Leste. And we've heard twice, Maria mentioned your name, how you were really important in helping us move forward on the PBLs in Mongolia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of this session. As I understand, we don't have government officials this time around. Since this is more internal, perhaps I can be more, relaxed and yeah, and I can take it easy. So as Maria had mentioned previously, for Mongolia, we've started our PBL implementation, or at least come up with the idea of implementing a PBL in air pollution reduction in 2016. Xingfeng and Maria Pia was our counterparts from the ADB side. But before 2017, of course, the government, having faced air pollution issue for quite some time, between 2010 and 2016, we have implemented several rounds of policy measures to reduce air pollution, air and environment pollution. For us, at that time, we didn't take a holistic measures, and one of the reasons why I always talk about our PBL and the China PBL is because it really helped us to take on systematic and holistic approach on reducing air pollution. Previously, right before 2017, the measures that we've taken, which Maria had already mentioned, but I'll highlight again, was improving stoves, improving stoves to be more efficient, and promoting the use of electric stoves. Because in Ulaanbaatar city, in Mongolia actually, we have 3.4 million people, but around more than half of the population lives in the capital city in a very congested manner, and half the population, actually maybe a little more than half the population, live in the Gare area, which is in the outskirts of Ulaanbaatar, and they burn coal. So in the past, the government realized that we need to improve one, stoves, two, the use of raw coal. But I suppose in the past, we were still trying to figure out what would be the most productive way or effective and efficient way to resolve these issues. But all the policy measures that we've taken in the past were segmented, or it was taken in parts. So the improved stove issue, subsidizing electric tariffs, and there was no holistic approach. And then in 2017, the government had approved its strategy on air pollution reduction that oversaw the period between 2017 and 2027, if I'm not mistaken, and to take measures in a sequential manner. And so we've looked at air pollution. How do we reduce air pollution in 3 stages? And when we were in the process of developing this national action plan, ADB had provided the necessary support with taking the lead actually among all the NDBs and bringing everyone together and providing the necessary policy and technical support. So for us, just having that support was really important because it really incentivized us, the government, and the line ministries to come together, and the other development partners to come together. Because in the past, the DPs would actually do diagnostic exercises. They would provide support. They would provide support in improving stoves, but there was never a holistic or coordinated support to the government. So these PBL approach is always very important. And we've learned from the China example. We've actually had the opportunity to visit Beijing and have a consultative meeting with the government officials, as well as the involved private sector partners. That really helped us, really opened our eyes, and encouraged us to take on this comprehensive measure. So I understand that in the past 2-3 years, we, especially under CCSD, we had this regional technical assistance project looking at secondary cities. And providing support in crop residue and other pollutants, pollutant issues, right? But at least from my perspective and from Mongolia perspective, we really encourage other countries to take into consideration using the PBL modality, because it really helps the governments and the line ministries really understand the other sectoral issues at the same time, and allows us to have these integrated, coordinated consultations, and to engage with other development partners more strategically. In addition to the PBL, we were able to implement a few other projects, investment projects, that incentivize the government to partner with private sector and commercial banks. So one project was a credit guarantee mechanism project where we actually introduced few green products. That was actually new at that time, to encourage commercial banks to issue issue loans to promote clean energy technology or clean technology, and then look into electric heating and electric cooking. And on the other hand, the program allowed us to look into opportunities of integrating affordable housing with clean energy technologies. So a lot of these, as Maria had mentioned, we've implemented this PBL in 2 phases. The first phase, help the government, and sorry, I'm sort of going all over because I'm quite passionate about this issue. For phase 1, what ended up happening was we actually established the foundation. We helped the government. This program helped the government to come up with a program that looked at the medium to long term. Phase 2 had helped us to scale up the initial intervention. So the current challenges that we're facing at the moment, and of course these 2-phase program has been implemented for 4 years, and then PM 2.5 level had been decreased to 49%, PM 10 level had decreased to 41% compared to the 2015 baseline. But then the current challenge we're facing is sustainability issue. Why? Because you need the government as well as political will to continue to take on these measures. How do we incentivize this? Is to continue our intervention through PBLs and RBLs and other investment projects, and then to really utilize these programs to leverage private sector engagement. So having a champion to take on these PBLs or these programmatic programs is really important. Having that champion to ensure the coordination mechanism continues to be in place is really important, and that ownership from line ministries is also very important. But without that champion, it's always very difficult. And I think Pakistan is facing the same problem. Actually, ED Noor wanted to be here, but we didn't have the government officials here. But there is a lot of interest coming in from the other countries to learn from our experience, Mongolia and China experience. And I've mentioned this to Xingfen as well as Yoko, and I will want to mention this to Yasmin now. Kyrgyz Republic, they want to learn from our experience. Back in the days, Uzbekistan wanted to learn from our experience. And Pakistan, I think Lahore provisional government, they wanted to implement a similar type of PBL, but I don't know where the status is at the moment. Indian government, I understand they're also very interested. So it would be good to bring everyone together to do a knowledge sharing event and really showcase what we have accomplished. I mean, I think ADB is we are the leaders in this area, and we are very hands-on compared to the other development partners. And with bilateral partners, we have that facility we have the platform to bring everyone together under one roof. So we really have to use our resources, right? So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tuya. So now I would like to invite Ms. Yasmin Siddiqui, Director of the Agriculture, AFNR, Agriculture, Food and Nature, Rural Development Sector Group. So maybe you also share your view with us and also closing remarks. Thank you, Yasmin.
Okay, thank you, Noriko. And maybe I don't have a formal set of closing remarks. And DA Tuya, firstly, thank you so much, because I believe you gave all of those key summary points based on a very close experience that you've had of working on this topic and clearly very passionate about. So firstly, thank you to you for taking time out of what is your incredibly busy day to join us here. But thank you, of course, to Noriko, the team here, and everyone who's been contributing and participating and has spent the day and has also traveled from afar, I believe in your case, Bertrand, and colleagues online who have joined for the whole day. Firstly, I'd like to say that this has been a room with a collection of leaders, catalyzers, movers and shakers, the passionate and the intrepid, because I believe it takes an intrepid mind and a passionate heart to tread on a path that's less traveled. So many of you in here are traveling on those paths where it's navigating uncharted territories. But as you say, DA Tuya, there are experiences elsewhere in ADB's DMCs that we can learn from. So just an anecdote, somebody asked me in the elevator today, why are you so full of smiles? And maybe it was because I joined you first thing in the morning in a room which was full of knowledge, experience, expertise. And I believe with that collective mindset, it's given me a smile all day that people even noticed. Really, the pioneering efforts here, I believe, are the way that we can lead ahead in the bank. And I'd like to thank Karma, who has really spearheaded this air quality initiative and has stayed very steady throughout many, many years and has become the face of ADB's air quality management initiative. So from the morning, we learned a lot firstly, about the significance of air quality. Of course, all of you in this room and online are already the converted, so there's no need for me to share on that. But what was important, and I think it remains important externally, the fact that with partnerships, we can deliver a lot more. And I'm really pleased that ICIMOD could travel here and share their experience. UNESCAP, you presented to us some very interesting insights and initiatives that have been documented, and I'm sure that will be of interest to everyone here. Thirdly, we talked about the World Bank as well, and many of you may be aware that in February, ADB and the World Bank had a very high-level retreat, which was led by the vice presidents from both sides, in which air quality management was one of the topics. So really, how ADB and World Bank could better partner on AQM, covering Pakistan and India and Bangladesh. So those were the three countries. And I think, DA Tuya, you sort of hit it on the head just now, that they're looking to us for that operational experience. And I actually overheard someone say to one of the senior people there that, ADB's done it on the ground. So we need to stop doing that knowledge work and move into actual delivery on the ground. So I think we can leverage a lot from the World Bank's, I think it's called their Air Shield shared efforts, in terms of knowledge, but really we already have the experience of doing the on-the-ground operations through PBLs. I think the evidence base is really important, and Barbara, and I'm really grateful to you and other colleagues who presented, I think Mr. Tara as well, who was online, that using evidence base is often very important for when we're working with new partners and new government entities, to really demonstrate to them that we've done our homework and we come with a lot of knowledge. I was commenting while you were presenting to Noriko that I think you had 16,000 farmers. For me, that's a huge number of farmers to survey and have evidence-based information rather than anecdote. This is so tremendous. And it's hidden. I know Noriko's made a huge effort to really convey that upwards. But DA Tuya, please also, if you could convey that back to Idinur as well, that we have such comprehensive field-based information, which is really informative and fundamental to what we're suggesting for Pakistan. Lastly, I'd like to just say that I did miss the carbon markets one, and I'm sorry for missing that here. I was listening online. But these are new areas that we really need to think carefully about. And I know Sumika also presented on this excellent work and initiative of Sile Industries and the work in India and Rajasthan, which we're going to visit next month to really understand how has India private sector been tackling this. So perhaps the last couple of points I have are really about that multi-sector joining hands, internal, external partnerships. What I am learning is that internally, this is not a one sector effort. This has got to go across many sectors, which we've learned already. And I'm thankful to, again, to Karma and Yoko, that they've been able to pull together energy, transport, urban, ourselves into one comprehensive, seamless group. What we look forward to is actually what DA Tuya suggested. I just bumped into another colleague from Energy Team in the cafeteria, and I said, guess what, there's this really interesting event on, and we must do a regional event to bring together our partners in a neutral environment where they can really learn from the experiences here, because I do believe there's a lot that other countries in the region, neighbors, can learn as well. So thankful to all, and we look forward to not just the next event, which my suggestion is to really raise the profile. And again, if we can have representatives as well from government here and from the board, that would really raise that profile. Number two, if we can really recommend to Noriko that beyond the investment project, which could be in mechanization, I do think we need to start revisiting the discussion around a PBL for Punjab province, to really look at some of the lessons learned from Mongolia, China, and try to bring some of those efforts based on all of your great work on how we can drive reform and regulatory updates into Punjab province. Lastly, just grateful to all of you for spending your entire day in this passionate discussion. But really, we're so grateful to all of you for those insights you bring and the knowledge that you bring, because I think it's the first time I've sat in such an exciting, engaging event, which has really kept my smile on for the whole day. So thank you all, and thanks to everybody online. And we really look forward to the next steps. Let's not let this be a one-off. Let's continue this into the next stages. Thank you, Noriko.
Thank you very much, Yasmin. Thank you. And then once again, thank you very much.